There's just some things you can't fake. Grit. Not as a trade, but as a persistent call. Ready to charge. Passion, attitude, determination. Not swayed by the whispers of doubt or despair. Not seeking the easy road, not fearing the fight. Carving out the creative through the night. Making sure everything lends results wide. Craft. It's in the creativity, attention to detail, deliberate, thought through, designed to a T, well executed, right messaging, striking visuals, targeted audience, understanding the rhythm, shaping the narrative, because effectiveness is imperative. Heart. The human truth, insight, pushing boundaries, back to the drawing board, again and again and again, until it feels right. Does it evoke emotions? Is it connecting deeper? Is it effective? The authenticity, sincerity, you have to feel it in the story. Results. The measurable impact of the work tied to the goals, the influence, growth in business, after effect, the likes, shares, clicks, KPIs, insights, and quality over pretty pictures. From lead gen to customer satisfaction, it's all about setting the global benchmark for excellence. Truth is effective marketing, always makes impact. So why fake it when you can show real results? Enter the Effies.
Welcome to today's dialogue, and very excited to have this fantastic panel with us. Obviously, we're going to be talking about marketing excellence. We're going to be talking about the Effie Awards, and the one thing that struck me in the video, even though I've seen it 412 times, is that the Effie Awards is the global benchmark for excellence. And I think what's really exciting for us as part of the Effie global team is that Effie has been acquired by the company that also owns Canline, Walk, and Contagious. And what that's going to mean for us as little Effie South Africa is access to a much broader range of educational material and hopefully just a bigger integration with creative and with research. So we're very excited about it. I think it's exciting times. And I'm not actually going to talk too much because I'm going to let the panel do the talking. And I'm going to hand over to you, Silas. So
thanks.
Take it away.
Thank you, Gillian. Thank you very much. Once again, good morning, everyone. And yeah, happy to see you, that you have made it through this gloomy Joburg weather. I hope it's not dampening our mood. But yeah, thank you and welcome. So the operative word for today, as Gillian has mentioned, is effectiveness. And you know, the objective of the discussion today is what exactly is effectiveness? And as an academic, so I went and did a check. And you know, what do academics say about effectiveness? The degree to which something is successful in producing a desired result. Mm-hmm. That's a simple thing, you know, and then we translate it into the Effie language to say rewarding ideas that work. So if today we can all live here understanding what it means, effectiveness, what is the recipe for effectiveness, and what is the journey towards effectiveness, I think the creatives, people that are in here, agents, representatives that are in here, marketers that are in here, people that make decisions around budgets, because the question is always, how does marketing demonstrate return on financial investment? So if all of those stakeholders can live here saying, well, now at least I've got an appreciation of what effectiveness means, I think we would have achieved a lot. So yeah, I'm joined by an esteemed panel here. I'm not going to introduce them. They will introduce themselves. But thank you very much for giving of your time. I think I know Shaun from 1998 in the industry and everybody. So I think sitting here, it's a cumulative experience of about 150 years. So that's that's something to applaud. Okay, so I'll be doing the facilitating, and then I'm going to hand over to our guests for a Q&A. And then there'll be a chance again for networking outside. Cool. So, Shaun, I'll start with you. You are representing a research world. You are with IPSOS, and you can tell us more about what you do. But the question for me is, why is there a need, or why did the Effie team see a need to partner with a research house in this journey? And from a global perspective point of view, how do you see these trends around effectiveness?
Okay, so a lot of questions. I'll start off with just saying it's lovely to see you all. Shaun Dix, I lead creative excellence at IPSOS globally. So that's everything to do with advertising research. I'm based in Hamburg in Germany, but I come from Johannesburg, so it's homecoming for me. I didn't order the weather or bring it with me in my suitcase. That's not my fault. Yeah, so I've been in, as you said, been working for quite a while, so now you've aged me or dated me. But when I set out on this journey and was given this role in 2018, one of the things, IPSOS has a history of working in advertising research roughly about 50 years from when it was founded. But in 2018, we kind of reset our vision and strategy on this topic of bringing research closer to the industry, to the marketers and the ad agency, because my view was that advertising research had a bit of a stigma, a negative stigma. And I'm sure you would agree with this, that researchers come into the room and it's red, yellow, green, and oh my goodness, they're going to kill my idea. So, I wanted to shift that perception, first with the name Creative Excellence, which was important, but then to have a vision that agencies, marketers would see that our vision is to raise the bar on the quality of the advertising that you guys create, right? Part of that journey when I started with this is not just putting a fancy name out there and making things look good, is we chose very selectively to have a partnership with Effie, because Effie is not just about judging campaigns for the sake of it. It's less about subjectivity. You mentioned it, Silas. It's really about ideas that work. And so we were very aligned with the vision that Effie has, in that, yes, we celebrate marketing effectiveness, but it's really about where the rubber hits the road. It's less about subjectivity. It's about actually proving that your campaigns work and that you have, the data to prove it. So this is the first step. And so I met with Tracy Alford, who's the CEO of Effie, back in 2018, 2019. And we started in the US working, on a partnership to try and go in this way to bring advertising research more into the conversation. Effie was already using a lot of data, but to give them access to data, to case studies, and to help them with not just being on the jury, but actually producing content, reports, things like that. And it went from a journey with Effie worldwide in the US and UK to now we're in more than 17 countries where we have a partnership, and in some regions as well. And I think, Silas, your question is, why does Effie need that? I think we can add and help add credibility. We're a partner that brings data, experiences, cases, where we're already working with Contagious. You mentioned Gillian Contagious. We partner with them in some of their big events and stuff, working with Cannes Lions as well, and hopefully walk more in the future as everything comes together. But I think it's necessary to have, a seat at the table. So research is there, agency is there, marketing is there, because, if we understand the end audience better, whoever they are, the people that buy our products, our services, use our brands, our companies, this is going to be better for everybody, right? Because we know that if you understand human truths and insights, this can be the golden thread that accelerates your ideas, your core creative ideas, your big ideas. So that's really where it was born, and the journey came from. And it's been a really, really great journey together, and I hope it continues.
Okay, thanks. Sure. Just to build on that, I'm going to bring in Refilwe. Refilwe is head of marketing at Discovery Health, and also a FESA jury co-chair. So she is very much involved, and you are involved in, judging and seeing entries. And the question for you, or rather, what I would like to unpack is that what are the key pillars, that you guys are looking for in terms of evaluating the work, evaluating the campaign, and where do you see a lot of brands excelling, and where do you see them falling short? So what are the, what are these 4 pillars that you are actually looking for that maybe perhaps fit into the research that you guys look into?
Thank you very much. So when we judge Effies, there's 4 things that we look at, right? And it's kind of in the judging criteria, and those of you who've entered would know the process, sometimes a very painful process of completing it. The first one is about kind of defining your challenge. I do feel like I'm writing an exam now. It's defining your challenge, it's your strategy and your insight, the actual creative work, the media as well, which is a part of that, as well as the results, right? So what did it actually deliver? And all of them are equally important, and so you do see the weighting. Results do have a slightly higher weighting because that's what we're here to do. We're here to make sure that you are delivering on whatever it is you had said you wanted to achieve. And I think where often brands tend to do incredibly well, and I think it's also a reflection of the fact that mostly agencies are the ones who complete them, is in the strategy and the insight and the creative, right? That's often where we see some really exceptional thinking and effort and energy put into. I think sometimes, where there's opportunity to do a lot better is in the first part, in defining the challenge. And the important thing there is that you've got to remember that not everybody knows your category, right? So sometimes an entry can be dismissed simply because, we're like, well, they were only targeting 1% growth. That's really not ambitious. Like, really, they could have done that without getting out of bed. So actually, this is not important. But when you're in a category like insurance, and you have players who are spending billions of rands every year for that 1%, that is a tough challenge. Like, that is not an easy thing to achieve. And I think that kind of context is really, really important so that we understand how hard is the thing that you're trying to achieve, because we debate that, right? We debate whether this could have happened, regardless of the idea, or whether the idea that you put into market really delivered the results. So I think often I don't think enough energy and thought and analysis is put into framing the scale of the challenge that you're dealing with up front. And the other part is then in the results piece, right? And I sometimes get in trouble for saying this, but sometimes, people try and sort of baffle us with bullshit a little bit. And it's kind of like, and I've used this example before, it's like a brand that is number 1 in their category, and we all know they're number 1 in their category, saying their mission was to beat the number 4 brand over Christmas. And it's just like, we know they're like 10% of your size. Like, this is, they've got 10% of your budget. Really, that's not an impressive thing that you've done. And I think it's real, so just bear that in mind, right? When you're talking about your results, make sure that they are connected to what you wanted to achieve, that you set out in the beginning, and pay attention to it, right? Make sure the numbers are right. Make sure that what you said you've achieved, you've actually achieved, which is hugely important. And connected to that is making sure that you then bother to tell us why it was only your idea that largely delivered this, yeah? Because we'll pay attention. So if you have delivered whatever it is, 20% growth, but at the same time we know that you cut price by 50%, we're going to be like, well, maybe it was just the 50% discount on your product that did that. So I think that, contextualizing that it wasn't whatever, a price cut or the fact that your media spend went up by 600%, those kinds of things, I forget what the term we used to use, but not mitigating, but it was a word we used to use around the other contributing factors, because then it paints the picture for us that actually it was this idea, this work that really delivered those results. And I would encourage you, when you are thinking about your entries, to make sure that you don't just think about the insight and the creativity, which is very important, but that you frame the challenge properly, as well as making sure that when you are doing the results, you're paying enough attention to it. And if you find your clients aren't giving you the data you need, beg, plead, fight, do whatever it is you've got to do, because it's actually worse to submit a case that has nothing in it. I can talk personally, it annoys me to have to read a case that's got nothing in it. And it's infinitely more powerful when you have enough data to substantiate what you're claiming.
So just to build on what you say, I say brands that are number 1 in their category, they shouldn't.
Not. Oh, I love that. Very provocative. Not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying that even if you are number 1, frame the challenge. Tell me why what you want to achieve is hard. you know? So don't tell me that you want to beat the number 4 brand in your category. Tell me that the thing we wanted to achieve was, whatever. We wanted to grow by 15%. No, that's a lot depending on your category. We wanted to grow by whatever it is, X percent. And it was hard because of these reasons. These are the reasons it's hard. And here's the results that we delivered. We delivered X, Y, and Z. And big brands do that. They absolutely do that. And I know it can feel, especially this year, because of the Grand Effie and Gold winners, it can feel like that maybe it's only for small brands, because, Pineapple and Capital Legacy, etc. But don't forget, Carling Black Label won awards, Castle Lager won awards. Like, they are very big brands that do incredible work. So it's not only for small brands at all.
Thanks. Carl, I want to bring you into the conversation. I know you represent the creative world, and you can tell us a bit more about that. And the question is this tension between creativity as well as hard numbers in terms of effectiveness, the numbers that Refilwe has alluded to. What is your perspective, around that?
Thanks, Silas. Morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm the guy with the microphone. And I'm the guy that generally I represent the creative world, so we generally don't like research. Shaun's a nice guy. But I think and I am joking about that because all of this is quite critical. I think creativity and effectiveness kind of coexist. You can't. I always say that. If you're just doing creativity for creativity's sake, then you're doing art, right? So, and I know if I've spoken anywhere else and you've heard that, I know I keep saying that, but it's true, because if we're not driving business results or having some sort of impact, I like to use the word impact. I think in the context of Effie's, efficacy is quite an important word, but I think the two coexist. Like as a creative, when you're selling work to a client and you're doing the best creative work, but it's not going to move any product, it's going to be very hard to sell that second campaign to the client. So for us, even on the research, the data, all that stuff, it all affects what we do. If I know the numbers, if I know the statistics, it helps us position work and sell work. And I think one of the lessons I've learned a little while ago, I've been in the industry for a little while, is that if we understand what the client's needs are, then we can help drive their business success. And I think the creative industry has done itself a disservice in many ways, where we kind of beating down the sort of creativity thing. I think if we can't deliver business results, then we won't have a job. At some point the client will move around and go, okay, cool, this other agency can help us. So I welcome effectiveness. I think effectiveness for me, because there's a thing about unpacking what that is. For me, I like to use the word impact because I think that's a good word, because it's not just about sales; it could have other impact. I think. I've judged Effie's now twice, and it was interesting. I think in the last 2 years, and I have to kind of hold the creative hat up, is I feel like in the past there might be have been a lot more of the strategic sort of like setup and the business stuff, but I think what has been good this year is the creativity kind of coming to the forefront, right? And I think all of those ingredients that, the pillars that we speak about, all those ingredients kind of have to work in harmony. It's not just the creative thing, it's not just the strategy thing, it's not just being effective. Like, I had an issue in the past where I was like, I see a write-up or a case and it's like so articulate and the numbers are good, but the work is terrible. And how do you say that that's good, right? Like, as a creative person judging stuff, how do you say something that has incredible results is great? Like, what made it incredible there might be other factors, but if the work isn't good, then there is a problem for me. So to come back to your question, the creative and effective have to coexist. Like some of the other pillars in how we measure the work.
And Nicole, I'm not ignoring you. You are the star of the show. We'll come back to you. I want to press you guys on this debate around creativity and effectiveness. And it somehow feels like creatives become apologetic, or the business become apologetic to say, yeah, we have to coexist and so forth. And perhaps this is where you can assist from a global trend perspective. Post-COVID, a lot of budget cuts, everybody, going into short-termism and so forth and so forth. How do we strike the balance? Or is this the time where we're saying, you know what, as long as it puts the numbers on the table, whether it's terrible, to your words, whether it's less right-hand brain or right-hand brain, less creative, we go with it.
Yeah.
What have you seen?
Yeah, I think so. I know my mic's not working. Oh, now it is. There you go. They're trying to get rid of the cough that I did earlier. So actually creativity is important. So that's a researcher saying that, by the way. And we know that because let's think of us as human beings, right? So our brains work like prediction machines. Everything we've learned in the past will influence the decisions we make today and tomorrow, right? And we suffer from what we call let's say a culture of conformity. So if you think about when you went to school, you're taught to sit in a classroom, sit at desks, conform in a certain way. You go to corporate culture, unless you're working for Google, you have to sit in certain ways, right? And this carries through into advertising, even post-COVID. Mm-hmm. If you look at I'm going to pick on automotive. So no hard feelings for anyone that's working for automotive in this group. But if you look at the advertising over the years, doesn't matter where it comes from, even in China, I was recently in China, you'll have the winding road. That's Chapman's Peak, the west coast of the US, or it's a Finnish or Swedish forest that they're driving a car through. Beautiful people in the ad, features, of course. Or we can talk about beer. You mentioned Carling Castle, whatever. Beer is a picture of the beer bottle, condensation on the bottle, the promise of refreshment, pouring the beer into the glass. The problem with all of these, and I could go on, the problem with these things those are conformed category codes that people have learnt, right? So now, if we are being pressed by the marketers, or even in the agency, to do certain things that conform, we're actually pushing against things that actually get into people's minds. They actually have banner blindness, and they don't see it anymore. So there is a case for originality, for creativity. It is very, very important to be non-conforming. In fact, what we see from the best of the best global Effie cases, so I judged on the last batch of best of the best, that's taking all the Grand Effies, Gold Effies from around the world, and you eventually have the Iridium, which is the big cheese. 83% of those cases in the best of the best category were representing non-conforming ads. So there you go. That's the proof. The proof is in the pudding. So I would say creativity is important. Now, to your point, Carl, and you're right. Creativity on its own is not enough. That's where you're right. So just by saying, I'm going to be creative, I'm going to have a lot of people in the industry say an emotionally led charged ad. Yeah, is that really the recipe to success? I would say, bollocks, it's not. Because you can have emotionally led ads that aren't actually effective. People might remember the ad, but they don't remember the brand, then you've lost basically the whole point of doing the advertising, right? So there are other elements that come into play. Yes, we need creativity, but if we have a low level of empathy, let's take that thing. What I mean by empathy is it's credible for people, it fits to the way they feel about the brand, or it's relevant to them in a way. It fits the way I feel about things, relevant for me. So empathy is kind of like a human truth, a deeper insight, right? If you have a low level of empathy and a high level of creativity, you can actually have a low level of effectiveness and you can have a negative delta we see across our data. But if you have a high level of empathy and a high level of creativity, on linear video, you can have as much as a 20% uplift. Across our data, across the world, doesn't matter if you're in Japan, Korea, India, wherever. Of course, the cultural nuances change and differ. Now, let's say that was for linear video, that stat. Let's look at social media. We know that social media, the spend in social media by 2028 is predicted to be around 78% globally. A bit of a shock, right? That's what's happening. Some brands are already at 60%. The kicker is we did that same analysis, looking at creativity with our framework and empathy. And what we saw in Facebook and Instagram, just to look at those in social feed, is that for social ad memorability, having a high level of empathy is actually more important than the actual creative story. It's like 50%. Because if you think about why you might go to Facebook or Instagram, your mindset is a little bit different to potentially YouTube or TikTok. And so you know, the understanding the other piece of the equation is very, very important. So, to your point, which you said earlier, do your homework upfront. Know your audience, know what your brand can reliably ladder up to, understand it, and know what your human truth is. If you can combine that with a really strong story and a story arc, then I think you're onto something.
Cool, thanks. And I trust the audience is taking notes, because this debate around creativity, and I love the way you are unpacking it, and the impact on results. It's a never-ending story.
Yeah.
Maybe now to bring in the star of the show, Nicole, 2024 Grand Effie SA winner. Maybe let's maybe let's play the video that one.
Pineapple is a digital millennial-first insurance company with the ambition to disrupt the staid, traditional category of insurance through a brand of honesty, transparency, and authenticity. Pineapple launched in 2017, and for 5 years they had managed to achieve incremental growth with an over-reliance of digital, social, and performance media channels. Awareness was still low, and so we were approached to help drive fame, equity, and growth for the brand. First, we refined their positioning to align to Pineapple's value proposition, the fairest insurance in the land. Next, we developed a unique and distinct voice for their audience and the category, a category traditionally shrouded in dishonesty, false promises, and jargon. Third, we created a fame-building campaign for Pineapple that introduced a unique voice to the world and defied the conventions of the category by doing what not many had done before, being honest. Honest about ourselves, honest about advertising, and most importantly, honest about insurance. We then set ourselves another audacious goal. No two billboards could be alike, and so we created 108 unique pieces of out-of-home creative, 108 headlines, 108 instances of the most honest insurance campaign ever seen. And that's how we turned a startup, challenger insurance brand into a household name, using traditional media to build a modern digital brand and connect with an audience who resonated with the same thing we did, the truth.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Nicole. Congratulations once again. And the campaign stood out as as the most effective one in 2024. Just take us through the journey. Having listened to the pillars, having listened to all of the challenges and the discussion. Just school us in terms of what went into the recipe and what came about.
Well, firstly, hi everyone. Nicole, CMO at Pineapple. And also just, wow, can't believe I'm here. Can't believe I'm sitting in this chair. Can't believe that we're the Grand Effie winner. I think it's like little old Pineapple. So really, really blessed and grateful. But I think why this particular campaign, just by the way, this was our first ever billboard campaign. Beforehand, we were just doing social media and digital. And I think the reason why this is really successful, and I think the reason why people resonated with it is, if you'd asked me 10 years ago if I would work for an insurance company, I probably would have laughed in your face. And I think that's how I feel about insurance, is how a lot of people feel about insurance, especially millennials. I don't think people want to talk about it. I don't think people enjoy insurance advertising. I don't think, I think it's that self-awareness, and coming into Pineapple with that energy, and just Pineapple's energy just in general of wanting to challenge the industry. I think the industry is incredibly serious. I think it is full of jargon. I think it is just not the nicest industry. I think it's just a little bit gross, especially at the time. For people who are chronically online, like millennials, I think, you're on social media, the last thing you want to do is see an insurance advert, and especially at the time, I felt everything looked the same. Everything was just, you could almost hide the logo and it would be a matter of that could be anyone, that could be any insurance company. And I think that it was an industry and still is an industry that is begging to be disrupted. And I think that it's also a space where people are spoken at and not spoken to. And there's also, in certain instances, like a lot of fear-based advertising and fear-mongering. And we wanted to change that. And there's so many things that we want to change about insurance. We want to make it easier. We want to make it more fair. We want to, just talk to people, have a conversation with people, and actually, speak with them, banter with them, have fun with them. And I think that we thought, well, I know who we are. I know we're an insurance company. I know how people feel about insurance company. We know how people feel about insurance companies. We know how people feel about insurance, and we know how people feel about advertising. I think also at the time, and maybe an unpopular opinion, but I think that the main people who were advertising were the big players that have big budgets: banks, insurers, alcohol brands, and huge budgets. And we didn't have a big budget, and we had a big challenge. We wanted to sell car insurance to people who hardly knew us. I think back to every single conversation. Where do you work? I work at Pineapple. What is that? And then had to basically try to mansplain, insurance and what I do and who Pineapple is and why we decided to, launch another insurance brand or company when there's already like millions, And I think that, despite the fact that we were doing digital and we were doing social, I think still, who are you? What do you do? Why should we trust you? Why should we buy insurance from you? Especially when there's players that have been doing this for hundreds of years. And we decided that because we didn't have a really large budget, we still don't have an incredibly large budget, but we decided to just really focus on one medium. And we felt that billboards was the right medium at that time. I think the nice thing about billboards, especially static billboards, is they stay there, which I think is really nice. It's, you might miss what the billboard said today, but you're going to drive back there tomorrow. It's still going to be there unless somebody steals it, which actually did happen. 3 times. And then I think what was also really, really nice, and I think where I think the real magic started to happen is we really wanted to challenge ourselves. And I think what was quite cool is no 2 billboards could be the same. And I think that's when the magic really started to happen. I think it gets a bit boring and everybody's fighting for your attention in the space. And I think if you've seen something once, you're kind of like, okay, cool. So why would we put the same thing on, 100 billboards? So we went and we made 108 unique billboards with 108 unique lines. And I think what was really fun and really cool about the campaign is we took that self-awareness to a whole new level. We took the Mickey out of billboards. We took the Mickey out of advertising. We took the Mickey out of insurance. We took the Mickey out of ourselves. And we, just created these very, very banterlicious billboards that we purposefully condensed in one tiny space. So you would see about 5 or 10, hopefully not to your dismay, on your travels every day, and just giving people that entertainment value of it's really funny, like it's really honest, like who allowed these people to put that on this billboard, we had a billboard that had our 3 co-founders at the time, like a picture of them, like when they were like just starting out with insurers are people too, you know, it was just, it was outrageous. And I mean, just incredibly honest. I mean, we knew that people also didn't know who we were and we're like, that's great, we should put that on a billboard. I think one of our billboards was, never heard of pineapple, honestly same. You know, like, and I think that specifically South Africa, and I think how serious advertising can be. I mean, we're South Africans. South Africans love to laugh. South Africans, I mean, just go and look at the comment section on TikTok and you'll see real humor. South Africans love humor. I mean, I'm a personal fan of OG Nando's. You know, that was a brand that I really looked up to growing up, because I think to have the ability and the power to make people laugh is just unbelievable. And I think that hopefully we managed to make that happen with this billboard campaign. And I think something really interesting started to happen. I mean, we obviously showed the work to our board, we showed the work to our team at the time, and I think what was really cool is they loved it. They loved it. I mean, I'll never forget, we were sitting in a boardroom just absolutely cry laughing at some of those billboards. Like, and some of them were just so stupid and bizarre. I mean, we had one billboard in the Hyde Park that said, have you seen our billboard in Sandton? And it had a photo of our billboard in Sandton. And then the one in Sandton had the picture of the billboard in Hyde Park saying, have you seen our billboard in Hyde Park? I mean, and I think that, I mean, the question I'd maybe like to ask some clients and some agencies is, do you actually enjoy the work that you created yourself? Are you actually laughing at the work that you're creating yourself? I think if you're not laughing or enjoying the work that you created yourself, how do you expect anyone else to enjoy the work that, you know, you created? And then I think what was really interesting, and I mean, you know, you never really kind of know how it's going to go. You just kind of put it into the wild and have about 10 sleepless nights of your life, just hoping that people are going to resonate and appreciate the work that you put out there. But I think what was really magic is, and what was really interesting was, I think because it almost mimicked a little bit of meme culture, people started sharing it and started talking about it on social media. And that was actually really special, because it was almost like a full circle moment to think like, wow, we're actually talking about a traditional like advertising medium on digital, and we're sharing pictures of billboards on digital. And I thought that was quite crazy. And I think further to that, we were very, very excited, a little bit overwhelmed that our website traffic also increased, which we were like, okay, that's really interesting, that's really good. And then people started to buy policies. And I think what was really, really interesting about that was, you know, in those social engagements, who are you? What do you do? Oh, I work at Paramount. Oh, you guys are those crazy people who, you know, or I saw one of your billboards, or, oh, you guys do insurance, or, you know, and I think that was where I think we started to get a sense of how impactful this campaign actually was, is people started to actually know who we are and were so curious and invested just based off of creating some good work that resonates with people and makes people laugh enough to go and, you know, check out what you do and like what you do enough to actually buy, you know, your product. And that's when we were like, wow.
Okay.
This is crazy.
So I'm sitting there. I'm an agent, a person, or I'm a marketer person, and the question I'm grappling with is, to Refilwe's point, what was the challenge? Because I want now to enter into an Effie, you know, an Effie Awards, and I was told many times, articulate the challenge, because that's where the magic happens. So if you can share, what was the single-minded challenge?
I think our biggest challenge at the time was we needed to sell policies, and we needed to sell policies sell policies as a brand that nobody knew in a highly oversaturated market. I would say that was our biggest challenge at the time. And then I would say on top of that is being a small player, having a drop in the ocean budget in comparison to some of the big players who've been doing this for years.
Okay, cool. And yeah, thanks for for sharing and sharing comprehensively. I think now is the moment that I hand over to our guests. What I will do is I'll take 3 questions, and maybe you can be direct to say this is the question for, or you can say a question and then we'll decide amongst ourselves who is it most suited for. Do we have roving mics? Roving mics. 3 questions, and then my panel members can answer. Please, when you get the mic, introduce yourself and then state your question. I do have a mic here, actually. Anybody with the mic?
There's someone there.
Make sure it's on.
No, there's one there.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Josi. I run a strategy consultancy firm called Thinkania. On my way here, I was wondering what was so important that we had to talk about it early this morning. I was like, didn't you guys do school drop-offs?
South African.
I want to say it is a very important question. So I've got a couple of questions and comments. In the submissions of the entries, and I know coming from the advertising background, there's usually a tendency to put case studies specifically for awards. What I mean by that is there's the work that was actually done, and then there's the case study, which tends to over-exaggerate the work. So as judges, how do you discern between the work that was done and the case study? Sometimes you find that the case study is much more impressive than the actual work.
Okay.
And then secondly, I think around pineapple, I think I want to understand about your values and philosophies that drive the work that you do. Does it come from the brand itself, or is this something that is driven by the agency?
Cool.
And then lastly, Carl, when you were mentioning, I think for me it's sort of like an interesting conversation around if the results are impressive but the work might not be. I find that, suppose the question is, how do we find the balance between our own echo chamber, where we are enamored with Ken Lyon's case studies, we watch walk videos, we come to these sessions, but the everyday consumer is not really interested about the standard of advertising. I've judged a few awards where I've come across something similar, where based on how we think about what the quality of work should be, the work is not impressive, but the results are impressive. How do you find that balance of, taking the consumer perspective into account to say, maybe the consumer is not really interested in, the quality of the creative, but the special, the promotion, the campaign made sense, therefore I will buy it.
Thanks, Josi.
Yeah.
Thanks. So 3 questions from Josi. So he has taken all of the voice here. Let's take one more, and then we'll answer that, and we'll go to another round.
You want the question?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Good morning, panelists and everyone else.
Testing that.
There's a lot of content coming out at the moment.
Maybe start by introducing yourself.
Hello, my name is Ryan Sauer. I run a data analytics business. And there's a lot of content coming out at the moment, and people resurgence of the long and short of it, and Walk's latest piece on multiply effects. And it's great to see that they're trying to bridge the gap between
That's your
brand
question.
and creative, and performance and measurement. And I would like to know from you as the panelists, how should we or how are we bringing the performance short of it and measurement closer to the creativity of brand? Because I feel sometimes that those two teams are not speaking to each other. So how in your businesses or in your agencies or in the data and the research are we bringing those closer together?
Cool. All right.
What do you want to start with?
Thanks. Yeah, we'll start with
Number one.
What's this question?
yeah, good question.
I'm happy to take that one.
You want to?
Yeah, happy to. Well, the first question about how do we kind of differentiate between, was this an actual campaign that was actually in the streets, or was it one poster inside a pick and pay store that was this big just to prove that we flighted it? Yeah. No, I know. I've judged other award shows too. I'm very aware that happens. I think the blessing of judging a show like Effie's is the results component, right? And so, sorry, there's two parts to your question. Because you have to be able to demonstrate how your idea impacted those results, it's very hard to include something that didn't do that, right? That actually didn't flight or had no impact. And it's part of why the piece around, I forget, there's a word we used to use when this used to be Apex, I forget what it is, the isolating factors or whatever the case may be, that it wasn't price, it wasn't increases in distribution, it wasn't that our competitors went quiet and did nothing for 6 months, that it was purely this idea. So I think the fact that you have to be able to demonstrate the link between your idea and the results helps. And the other thing is that because we have such a diverse group of judges, which I think is fundamental to what makes Effie's what it is, the reality is that we live in the world, and so that conversation emerges. There's a campaign I remember from 2 years ago that claimed they had done XYZ in kind of townships around the country, and because we have people who live in the world, they were like, guys, nah, I go to townships. I live in the townships. I never saw this thing ever. Like, did you see it? I don't know anybody who's seen it. And so I think that it just speaks to how important and how critical it is to have a diverse panel of judges, right? Because we do live in the world. We see things. And so when you claim that you had 108 billboards, it's then very awkward if everyone's like, has anybody seen a billboard? No, guys. No. Maybe not so much. And I think that's critical. The fact that you have to demonstrate the link to results, as well as the fact that your judges, and there's lots of them. I don't even know how many judges we have. You'll have to tell me.
Can I pick up on that?
68
Yes.
tells you. Yeah.
So just to say, build on what you're saying, is that results component is very important. Sometimes the results are a little bit more wishy-washy. And to your point, when you have a diverse group of people, agency, research, marketer, whoever it might be, you can debate then what those results are actually saying. Because to your point, has it really had an impact?
Yeah.
Was it just a few attributes that have gone up? In a tracking study, if we say image attributes, has it really made an impact? And I think that's a good discussion to have, because then you can really see if that case has demonstrated that it has had impact in the markets or not.
And actually, sorry, now we're having a whole conversation. That you're raising an important thought, that sometimes there's a desperation because you believe that to win an Effie, results have to be sales. And I think Carl mentioned it earlier. It doesn't have to be, right? The point is, what were you trying to achieve? If it's that nobody loved your brand and everybody hated you, and now everybody knows your brand and feels strongly about you, that is success. Don't be afraid to submit cases that don't necessarily have a specific sales measure. That's really, really important to include.
Cool. Just to build on that, Carl, the second question to say, do consumers care? Customers, consumers, do they care?
About creativity.
Yeah, it's a thing. And maybe it's a little bit of that question about case studies also, right? Case studies can inflate things. We've got a thing where you have a case study entered for a radio spot. Why, right? You should just be able to listen to the radio spot. So the question is, when a consumer is exposed to your work, how do they see it? I think there's a thing for me, almost just to step back, and I don't know, because I lost track of the question. But I think there are a couple of things that's popping up for me. Is and I'll lean into, I know Pritesh from Luriz said, he had an interesting point of view on awards, because we look at this through an awards point of view. We're not just speaking marketing, it's everything. But awards are almost like market research into what's happening in a market. at a specific time, in a specific context. And it's about whether your communication resonated within that market. So as salespeople, showman people, whatever we want to call ourselves, we're going to give you the most inflated version of that to put our case across, right? And I think, unfortunately, case studies do that. That's the world that we're in. To be honest, we can, if you're asking me purely to look at something creatively, I can go and say, yes, that's great. I think it's great creatively or not. If you're asking me to look at a case within a market at a specific time, and the case that you're putting forward through the Effie's lens is, we did this campaign. We did this campaign, for example, for an insurance company. We use specific tools like relevance, uniqueness, culture, all these things, getting into culture, specific locations. We use that to help achieve our challenge. I think there was a thing with CAN. They had a webinar a few weeks ago, and they spoke about it. And it's the thing that was the biggest thing from judging Effies this year was the challenge. Refilwe, you said it in when we were speaking about the grand jury. She said, and I was like, oh fuck. I mean, excuse my language.
It's okay. I swore first. We're good.
I was like, oh, you just set your challenge up. Okay, cool. And it sounds simple, but if a business has an objective that they want to achieve, how did your case help them achieve the objective? That is what you're putting, inflated or not. If your challenge is X, how did your campaign achieve that? That's what CAN's asking. It's what Effies are asking in terms of what the challenge is. And sadly, case studies are a skill, and it keeps me up more than 10 days. But case studies are a skill in terms of selling, sadly. It's up to the jury to be able to go, I recognize the elements of the work. I recognize the data, the insight. I recognize the creative standard, and I recognize the result in terms of that challenge. And I think Effie's has that thing that for me, I thought was really good. CAN's asking for that. I think a lot of shows will be asking for that. And a lot of shows are going to be asking, like, what is the strategy? What is the creative? What are the results? If you almost break it up into those principles, and Effie's has more, but I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling. I don't know if that's answering your question. It should come across in the case that's put forward. I think everyone interrogates the numbers. We interrogate everything. I don't think, and it gets put up, and yes, it's almost dipstick research of a certain jury. I guess it's not a reflection of the full audience that it's intended to. I think the jury's got to have a level of openness, experience, etc., to be able to go, did this resonate with that audience?
And humility, that this work is not for me.
Yeah.
You know, and we have those discussions. That actually, guys, I don't really get this work, but to be fair, it's not for me. So, you know, if it delivered the results, then, you know, ultimately that's what matters.
You know, and before I let Nicole speak about the values and how that ties to the work that we do, I think maybe there's a question that was asked there in terms of bridging that gap between creativity and effectiveness. And do you want to?
I think he was mentioning performance, right? So performance to brand. And I think, no, there's still a lot of, I mean, just to say there's a lot of opportunity to do better there, because you have, in a lot of the global players that we work with, different departments, as you said, working on different things, completely disconnected. And, you know, and with, as I mentioned earlier, with the rise of investments in social media, there's not a lot of, at least in my view, a lot of measurement in terms of are those things actually being effective or not. So there's a lot of focus on the performance metrics, and those performance metrics were originally designed for D2C, you know, and so that's fine if you're a D2C brand, but if you're not, and you're doing work in social media, you need the other side, so the yin and the yang. And I think there are efforts now starting, at least what I can see from the big advertisers who are asking themselves questions. You know, if we've got all of these creative quality scores, we're auditing, we're looking across our social media data. If we look at some of the biggest FMCG companies in the world, who are looking at 1,000 ads a day, something like that in social media, they're now, the CMOs of those companies are asking, okay, is this really effective or not? And they're getting that data in a near real-time basis, so they can see from their platforms and the variables in the AI they're using what that is. But they're missing the other side of the coin. So the challenge of that is that the tools and the measurement haven't really been ready to fit into that world. Now it's coming. So there are tools that are leveraging AI in a way, not Gen AI, but like prediction. So you can use databases that have a lot of history and predict the results. And for social media, you need the speed. So that's something I think that will come across now, because almost every brief we get, the question is asking exactly that, and the answers aren't there yet. And to your point, that's the other thing, is that the companies need to recognize that those people shouldn't be disconnected. The teams are, like, sometimes we are working more with market researchers, sometimes strategy people, but the people who are working on performance-based things are completely different. So that's coming together now, but I'd say that's still a journey that's going to happen in the next few years.
Cool. Back to you, Nicole. So the question was, did the company really put their soul and heart and their views into that?
I did hear, I hope I do your question justice, but I did hear something about values and who carries out those values. Is it the brand or the agency? I think it comes from everyone. And I think you need that, because you need to hold each other accountable. I don't think you can grow a successful business if you don't hold each other accountable, especially to your values. I mean, just based off, I mean, we did a lot of work with Halo on this so that we could obviously get to the core of Pineapple, and I think it still stands true, and I think it's still what we try to do every single day. I mean, we try to live up to being honest and fair and transparent, and I mean, I think what's quite nice about that value or that positioning is it opens you up to having an honest, just an honest, accountable conversation. Because I think the reality is, and I'm sure these guys can attest to this, and I'm sure you can attest to this, is, I mean, nobody's perfect, and no brand is absolutely perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to go through ups and downs. Yeah. But I think if you have the ability to put your hand up and say, that sucked, I'm sorry, you know, I think that's a very powerful thing. And I think that you almost need to open yourself up to that as a brand, because how are you going to improve? How are you going to grow? And I think that that's always going to be our energy and attitude towards this brand. I mean, I wouldn't be able to go to bed at night knowing that I wouldn't want my sister, my mother, my brother, or I don't know, my partner using Pineapple's insurance or car insurance. You know, I think, because I think it's only a matter of time until people realize that and figure that out. And I think a lot of your growth then will be fake or false. So I really do count on people to have that open conversation with us. I think if people do have a terrible experience, we want to hear about it. You know, we want to fix it. Like, I don't think anybody who cares about the brand that they work on, whether you're client or agency, wants to know that this person's had such a terrible experience. You know, if you don't hear about it, or if you don't open yourself up to hearing about it, how can you fix it? So I hope that answers your question.
Cool. And you know, it's funny because I'm looking at Nicole giving an answer, and I'm looking at the guys from Hello, the agencies, and they're going like, yeah, you know, so there's some consensus. Okay, I'll take another round of questions. Okay.
My name is Michael Cost. I'm from Humans. We're a tech company that deals in influencer marketing. I wanted to ask a question specifically around the creative conformity, which I think is such an amazing concept. I feel that marketers sometimes create campaigns that other marketers will love and forget the consumer. And I must say, the next person I see posting a pineapple billboard on LinkedIn, I'm blocking them because I can't take it anymore. But I think what makes them is that, you know, I think we started seeing that breaking the norms in the insurance space sectors rather, with King Price first, and then Pineapple came along. And I think that breaking those norms, and now you see your competitors playing around, right, with the billboard wars that happened between Naked and My Way, right? But I want to kind of pose a question around at what point do you create a new norm where the oversaturation of billboards becomes that norm that people now start switching off? Because I've seen the billboard in Sandton, and yes, I saw it in Hyde Park, and I saw the 20 in between. How do we still break those norms and not create a new creative conformity?
Cool. Sure. Oh, there's a question?
Hi guys, so it's Elizabeth from Unilever. I think Carl, my question is to you, right? Because in this partnership of creating ideas that work, I'd say client has a big responsibility in that. So my question to you is, what do you feel client could be doing better? One, in inspiring agency, to create work that then works. So when you look at the experiences, either in the briefing sections, in the feedback sessions, what could we as clients be doing better to create the work that we all really, really want to look at and be inspired by, like we've seen with Pineapple?
Sure. Take the third one. There and last. There's a hand there. Or let's take two. Yeah, there's two hands there.
This one is for you, Refilwe. Congratulations on the nomination as co-chair.
Thank you.
Of the Effie. I'm intrigued to understand how the definition of effectiveness, if this is all about effectiveness, has that definition changed or shifted over the years with all the changes that we're seeing in the industry itself? I'm quite intrigued if you feel that has followed along as well.
Thank you.
Sure. And then let's take the last one there. Conformity briefing.
Morning everybody, I am Pat Matlala from Pat on Brands. When I say Pat, say Pat on Brands. Don't forget. My question is just around the fundamentals of advertising, right? So I'm asking this question purely on the basis of a video I posted on social media about Pick and Pay and how I feel they applied the fundamentals of advertising. However, to my dismay, I saw comments from industry professionals, sort of commenting negatively around the fundamentals themselves. Because we all know that as a cook in the kitchen, you have a recipe that you follow. If you apply it correctly, you are likely to produce a great meal. But now you have people in the industry that are now going against or criticizing the application of the fundamentals. And then we wonder as an industry why we are not taken seriously. And if you think about it, we are the only industry that criticizes itself in public. You never see an architectural company criticizing another architecture's work. But I just want to find out from the experts on the panel, just the role of the fundamentals. Do they still have a place in our industry? Or do we just, like Pineapple, challenge the norm for the sake of it? Okay.
Cool. Can I do something?
Yeah.
I'm going to help Nicole answer her question. So I'm standing up. This is a book called Misfits. That's exactly who you are, and you get my cap as well. Don't know if you wear it, but you got it. So I just do a preamble to the question. I think first question is for you, but for me, Pineapple is you basically embrace the culture of misfits. If you think of the word misfits, if you look at the dictionary for a definition, it's kind of something non-stereotypical, maybe negative, but in this case, it's not negative. It is non-stereotypical, but it provides value to the end audience. So maybe that helps you with your answer on the first question with Naked and My Way. But that's what I thought was pretty much the center of your story when you were telling it. And what you were trying to do is like just break out the shackles of this category that's very conformed.
Thank you. And thanks for the book and for the cap. Appreciate it. Sure. Can you repeat the question? Also, look, one thing that I will say is it actually really excites me that things are getting heated and spicy and fun in the billboard space, and I think that if I find that exciting, I'm pretty sure every other marketer finds it exciting. But I also think that there are consumers that are like, oh, what's going on here? So I actually think that's really cool. And I think that what's also nice there is it's like, never get too comfortable, do you know what I mean? Because what was maybe yours yesterday is no longer yours, and everybody's playing in the same space. But I think that that's such an amazing opportunity to figure out what to do next and to stretch yourself and to actually, play some more. Get in there, think, and play. And just see what happens. So I think that that's really cool. It almost reminds me of, I don't know if you guys remember when hipsterism became the fashion trend, and then anyone who happened to unfortunately be an original hipster and be labeled as an original hipster was kind of like, well, all of a sudden now I have this label and all of a sudden everybody's dressing like me, you know. But I also think that there's something that I like to believe rooted in that, which is authenticity. And I think also personality. I think you're always going to be who you are at the end of the day. And I think that there's a lot of things that are actually hard to mimic. And I think that I like to see brands as people, and I like to think about how multifaceted people are. And I think that brands can be equally as multifaceted. And I think that if you just dig a little bit deeper, you'll find that there's other ways to still be authentically you as a brand, but play in different areas or expand your playground, to put it that way. And I think that if you're it's like a hipster will always be a hipster who will always be a hipster, you know. And I think fashion fades, right? Or trends come in and out, and I think that if you're still that hipster, you're still going to be the hipster when the trend dies, right? And I think also if you're a misfit to your words, if you're a misfit and you are constantly fighting against this greater beast, not even being your competitors, let's just say the industry itself, I think you're going to constantly find new ways to speak to your audience about that, and should I say, evolve along the way. And I think what's really important and what needs to remain consistent there is you need to be authentic to your values, to your point. You need to hold yourself accountable to your values. And I think also be who you are. So don't change your personality or try to be anyone or anything else, because I think that's what will see you through.
Sure. So maybe just to give Nicole a break. Just to give Nicole a break. Refilwe, you're a marketer. Okay? Carl, you're in the creative space. And to Elizabeth's question is, how do you actually fuel the fire, as a client? How do you fuel the fire to create magic between yourself and the creative agency? That's what you're saying. So, let's talk to other, marketers, creatives, and let's Nicole take.
Nicole can answer
Thank you, Nicole.
But I will use Nicole when she was speaking about. It's a little bit like a relationship, right? Like it's the same thing. If you're not honest in the relationship, what you do together won't be what you really want, right? And I think there is a correlation between client relationships, client and agency relationships that result in better work. And you can look at brands that have done that, and you'll see that correlation. You'll look at Steve Jobs, Lee Clow, Nando's, Robbie Brozin, and his relationship at the time with the agencies and so on. I think there's a level of what I'm getting from Nicole is with her and her agency Halo is there's an honesty and an accountability, and I think an alignment. Because if, and I say this, if you're coming into the room as the client to try and inspire, but our values aren't aligned, it's going to be really hard, right? It's going to be hard to speak that love language. So I think there's a lot more work than just the inspiration of a brief. I think there's an understanding and alignment and an honesty and trust with client and agency, and if you have that, because it's hard to get people excited about, and if you're saying Unilever certain things, right, or whatever it is, but if you understand, if they are aligned to what your objectives are as your agency, and they understand your needs, I think that alignment goes a long way, so that when you do try and inspire, it lands a little differently, hopefully in your way. I do like Unilever products, just by the way. That came out wrong. Sorry. Hopefully that answers your question. I think the trust and the honesty and the alignment. You'll see just a thing. You'll see a lot of brands, big brands, AB and BEVs, etc. They use a creative ladder, right? So there's a thing that aligns them. The intention behind that ladder is just an alignment, just to say this is a standard. This is what I expect. Because sometimes the business language and the agency language are different. That's a tool to help align. But I think ultimately it's about the relationship that you have and the accountability that you have with each other, so that when you do put a brief on the table for whatever it is that the creatives might not know about, that it can help inspire them.
Go.
Yeah.
Refilwe, do you want to add on that?
No. I'm going to answer the question that was asked to me directly by Langa about how Effie's effectiveness has changed. Yeah. So thanks, Langa. Have I lost you now? Where are you? Oh, there. Sorry, I couldn't see you anymore. I think the most fundamental way that it has changed, and to be fair, we've only been doing Effies for a few years. Before it was Apex, and then became Effies. But and I've been judging that for quite a while now. The fundamental shift for me is a broadening of the definition of effectiveness. If I reflect on the conversations we had, whatever it was, 5-6 years ago, a lot of the questions were like, yeah, but it didn't really move the needle in terms of sales, right? There was a lot of that kind of conversation. And what I'm loving now, and it's a function of just having so many different ways of measuring things, right? Which is amazing, is that doesn't have to be the only measure. All of it is relevant, whether it's about brand love, whether it's about brand awareness, whether it's about shifting sentiment, right? That, people used to think you were dishonest and cruel, and now they think you're honest and authentic, whatever. We can hear you talking on that mic. That is the most fundamental shift, just a real broadening of what qualifies as effectiveness, which is great for us because it's not just about short-term sales. That's not the definition of our job. My view is our job is about sustainable growth, right? Well, how am I making sure that I will continue to grow moving into the future? And that it's wonderful that Effie's now has a much better understanding of that.
Sure. And maybe to the question or to the provocation there from Pat, maybe is to play it back to the audience, those that are brave to take a stab at it, to say, why is it that as an industry we are self-critical? Something is put out there which, in his view, is perhaps great communication or great piece of work, and to his point, he says, he nearly got lynched on social media. Anybody brave to respond to that? Anybody that has responded to that? Anybody that has... Busi? Can we give a mic to my colleague Busi?
Having been in a creative space and then in a more corporate space, I think the difference is that, to answer you, Pat, is that from a creative perspective, that's who we are, right? So we're showy, we're louder, and it's important to get that feedback. Yeah. So you made the correlation between an architectural firm and a creative. And people will call us creatives and they'll call other people suits, right? The suits are the ones that are quieter. The creatives are the ones that are seen to be louder, more, you're out there, the things that you say, you're verbose, what you wear, all of that stuff. So it's expected that from a creative perspective, there will always be that dialogue, and the dialogue will be louder. It won't be, and it will be subsumed by things like, did that big? Was that empathetic enough? Or what did that say? Or actually, what did that do? Kind of thing. Whereas from the architectural, from the suits perspective, it will be more a discussion that is held, if I can call it behind closed doors. It won't be so out there in people's faces, and so that's where you feel like you're getting eaten alive. Pat, you felt that you were being completely annihilated. The architect probably in the boardroom also feels like he's being annihilated. His is just not, the flogging is just not being done in public.
I think it's complicated. It's like asking for a guarantee that this campaign will work. If that's what you're asking, you're speaking about the principles of advertising. You apply the principles of advertising, and then there's a backlash on it. That happens, and I think, and just by me speaking about this, I feel like I'm commenting on the campaign. I'm not. I'm just going to remain neutral. But it happens, right? You could do stuff that you think is insightful to a specific demographic within South Africa, and then someone picks it up and says something, and then it has a whole backlash. That happens. I think the challenge is, how do you respond to that as a brand, as a communication agency or partner? I think that's the challenge, really, right? So in that case, something happened there were a whole lot of things that were raised. I don't know what the way forward is, because I'm going to comment on that stuff. But it's unfortunate that it happens, and it does happen. Brands have done this. They've made mistakes. It's how, again, sorry to use Nicole, just going to throw out under the
That's right.
No, but then you've just got to go, okay, cool, what do we learn from this? How do we stay authentic? How do we pick ourselves up? And then how do we keep carrying on authentically, But it does happen. We don't have a guarantee. We can apply, it's the thing that we're battling with AI today, right? AI is trying to mimic, or is mimicking, and data people don't hate me, but it's mimicking human behavior, thinking, all that stuff. But is AI going to get it right? We see that in image generation. No, it's getting good, and it gets it wrong. And it's the same with the principles of this. Is like, you're going to go, okay, cool, in terms of pattern behavior, this should work, but then it doesn't for whatever uncontrollable reason. How do you, as a brand, pick up and go, cool, we're going to readjust and then keep carrying on authentically to our brand values? I think that's the thing, because we don't get it right. AI is not going to get it right all the time.
Cool.
We're not going to get it right all the time.
Can I just add one point on that? I think, sorry, I'll be quick. I think part of the magic of being in this kind of an industry versus, building airplanes, is that we do get to break the fundamentals. And sometimes when you break a fundamental, that's when the real magic happens, right? A fundamental of media and launching a new brand is that you must be on TV and you must be on radio and and that you can break it and be like, actually, no, now I'm going to do this other thing. Do you know what I mean? And I really think that it's a privilege that we get to do that we get to have those kinds of conversations about breaking fundamentals. And we must embrace it. So I don't think it's a problem.
Can I comment quick?
Yeah, last closing comment.
I mean, look, brands aren't perfect. I've already mentioned that, and I think take the L, like take the loss and wear it in your stride. I mean, we decided that it would be a great idea to do these silent adverts. I think they were maybe the most hated radio adverts. I mean, I got invited to do an interview only to be told that the only reason for this interview is to talk about how bad those ads are, and how everybody hated them. And I think lean into that. I mean, Schweppes did something that was really cool a couple of years ago. I don't know who made that decision, but they changed the color of their tonic water and their soda water. Yes. And people were putting soda water in their gin and tonic. And they literally went to the product team. They pulled the product team. It was hilarious. They were like, sorry, apologies. And I think that's, so you're never going to always get it right. Yeah. I think to think that you're always going to get it right is it's unrealistic. But I think when you do get it wrong, own it and just take the loss and move along swiftly.
Cool. Thanks. Last word, huh?
Yeah, I think it's about also knowing who you're talking to. If you're knowing who you're talking to in your audience, you can get around that a bit easier. I mean, we all know about the Bud Light story and what happened there. So I think there was a bad miss. And then recently with, you were talking about AI. Coca-Cola launched their Christmas spot and went live on LinkedIn. The media fried them. everybody on LinkedIn fried them. Actually, that ad was just perfect. It's not the best creative that Ever's ever created. The polar bears you've seen before, it's not the best art. But I tell you, it works. And that's because in 1995, they released that ad and those polar bears were the same polar bears, the trucks are the same trucks. So actually, it's not that bad. It's good. Yeah, so I think it's just a balance. You do want to be a misfit. You do want to do daring things like you've done at Pineapple. It's just knowing your audience and how far can you stretch it, because you do want to be different. If you're too, stuck in the same old thing, you'll end up doing work that's mediocre.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've come to that, to that part, and yeah, once again, it's a privilege. Thank you for giving of yourself and of your time, and sharing honestly and openly to the audience as well. But before I let you go, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Gillian to say some closing remarks.
Thank you very much. Every dialogue I come to, I say that was the best discussion on the topic that I've heard, and I really think that today was fantastic. So, big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you. I mean, one thing that really stood out for me was Shaun, the idea of empathy, and it comes through very strongly. Closing to your question, comes through very strongly in the framework in the insight section, and that's where the judges' bias. We run a bias. We talk about your bias before you start judging, but I think Pineapple did the way your case was written. When we read the case, we understood the mindset of the consumer so well that even if, we're not, Pineapple probably is for all of us in this room, but the way you framed the challenge and the way you explained the issues and the fear and the actual, distrust and all of that really helped us as judges and understand it all. So that was great. I just wanted a few very, very quick announcements, and then I'm going to let you go and eat and go back to your real world. Okay, so hold on, wait. Just want to say this, the 25 season is open for FEs. We have put out a call for judges. I don't know if you've seen it. It's been on social media. It's all over the show. We are looking for judges. We need probably about 70 or 80 judges for the different rounds of judging. So we have a first round, a second round, and then the Grand Effie. The Grand Effie is not always awarded, so it's very prestigious when it is awarded. And I can tell you that we had an absolutely phenomenal jury last year, with Refilwe and Ahmed as co-jury chairs. We have a school review committee, which is chaired by Adesha Singh and Mpume from Joe Public. I mean, it is robust. You've got experts in the room. And also, we had a really nice split of marketers, researchers, academics, and that's what we're really looking for this year, is inclusive. We want agencies of all sorts. So whatever the type of agency you are, please apply. And we look forward to that. Timing-wise, we're opening entries on the 3rd of April. And one of you said it's really hard to write a case. It's not easy. So the period goes until June. What we will be doing is doing a judges how to write good cases workshop on the 6th of March, 5th of March, something like that. We are also, thanks to IPSOS, doing a presentation where IPSOS takes the insights from all of the winners and extracts information around what they did well, and I think that's going to be really helpful as well. So thank you to you for that. And then we do judges training before you kick off. So that's all happening, just so you know. We couldn't do any of this without our sponsors, and we thank you very much to Nedbank for the venue today and for helping us set up, and all our other lovely sponsors, SABC, PepsiCo, SAB, InBev, Unilever, GIBS Insurance, Investec, and Lobengula. We are also inviting people to become sponsors. And one of the things that we've done is, thanks to our PR company, I see Franco up there, and Unati, is we've done the ROI reports, and our sponsors get incredible bang for the buck because there is so much activity and press stuff, and there's interviews and things, and people are interested in the Effies. We did some really nice interviews after the show. last year, and they were, we did SABC interviews, CMO, we did fantastic things, and they're really worth watching. So there's other benefits that you get as a sponsor, but what I'm very excited about is that one of the things is you're going to get free seats and a massive discount on our soon-to-launch Effie Academy. So what we're doing with Effie Academy, yay, big round of applause. There are two components of the academy. The one is called Fundamentals, and it's a self-paced online course. It's fantastic. I'm halfway through it. It's really, really, really good. It's case-based. They show you the theory. They're your pillars, Refilwe. They take you through the framework. And are you stretching? We've got a question. Okay. They take you through the framework, and that's to answer your question, Pat, about the fundamentals. Those fundamentals are there, but then they help you show how to use them and when to break them, when to be non-conforming, etc. So that's going to launch soon. And then Effie College is a university-based program. We're going to call it Effie University. And it basically goes into final year marketing students, and it's a brand-led real competition which takes the students through the framework as well. So we're very excited about that, but as a sponsor, you obviously get discounts and things. And that's it. That's all I would like to say. Oh, a few more thank yous. Thank you to our ACA team for organising. Thank you to all of you. I have gifts. And thank you to our Effie committee. Anwar is here. He got stuck, so we didn't hear from him this morning. But thank you to the committee, Elizabeth, Kagiso, a number of you here today. And thank you to all of you for coming. The last thing is that Shaun has some books.
Yes.
So how do you want to decide who you give your books to?
The people who ask the questions. Okay. Come to Quentin in the corner there, and they'll get a copy. So if you ask a question...
And Quentin will give you a copy of the Misfits book.
Yeah. I don't
and
know.
we're very glad to have had you all, and thank you for getting up so early.
Sure. Thanks.